Welcome to Extracurricular. I'm your co-host, Eddie Geller.
And I am your other co-host, Stephanie Vanos, a member of the Orange County School Board, but I am here today, as I always am, unofficially.
Beautiful. I made a joke right before. No, actually, we were actually recording, but I won't put it in the podcast, that your chair was moving, and I jokingly told you not to move your chair. And now I feel like we're just shook.
I'm frozen.
You're frozen. You're just not moving an inch to make sure there are no chair noises. But there will be other noises on the podcast, which is the noise of our voices and the voice of our guest. If you're new here, and if you've been around, you've heard this spiel a lot, and you're going to hear it a lot more. But if you are new, please do consider subscribing to this podcast, Extracurricular, rating us. Steph, what can they rate us?
5 stars only.
5 stars only. And following us on Instagram, extracurricular_podcast. That Instagram is just rocking and rolling. And yeah, so thank you so much for being here. Steph, we're just like rolling in the fabulous guests. We're just like left and right. And I want folks who are listening to know you are doing the lion's share of booking people. So just so much credit to you. And today's episode is a friend of the podcast. Would you like to talk about our guest today?
We had Dr. Hector Maestre. He is a principal at an OCPS high school, with Boone High School. But he was on the podcast unofficially.
Very unofficially.
As we all are.
I'm here officially.
Okay,
so
well, Eddie Geller is here officially. The rest of us are here unofficially. He was done here, as an OCPS employee, but he was here just sharing some of his insight on his journey to become a principal, on his experiences in school, on his history, and how that inspired him to choose the path that he ended up taking. He
is such a beautiful human being, both aesthetically, but really more importantly, his humanity is beautiful, and it is wonderful to see and to hear, what it's like just to be a principal and what, the day-to-day is like and how he thinks about being a principal, but heartening that people like that are principals, like someone who genuinely cares so much about the students and the school and the community, and hearing him talk through some of I try to be a gotcha podcaster, and I tried my best to gotcha him, and he was just smooth and just so thoughtful about how he goes about his day. It was really lovely hearing from him. I think folks are really going to enjoy that interview. Yeah,
and it was just such a good reminder that the people we have in our public schools and OCPS are just, he is one of a kind. I'm not taking that away, but really just truly wonderful people who care about students, who care about what they're doing. And, being in education right now is not easy. Mm-hmm. And just a great reminder that we have such incredible people in our schools, leading our students and leading our educators, and just making our schools just great places to be.
And a Nintendo Switch and Switch 2 player, which comes up briefly on the podcast, but we got to shout that out because we need representation,
Exactly.
You can't beat it if you can't hear it. Okay, that does not click as well. All right, let's just talk a little bit about our week. Actually, we had an adventurous Saturday morning. We're recording this Saturday morning. What did we do this morning, Steph?
Oh, well, you may remember a couple of weeks ago, we interviewed Genesis Robinson.
So great.
Which was a great interview. He's from Equal Ground. And he was telling us that Equal Ground is doing this tour. They're providing legislative updates all around the state of Florida. And so we checked it out, and we found one that they were doing in Orlando this morning.
Just a few minutes away from us.
Yeah, so we went over and we checked it out this morning. What did you think of it?
I thought it was fabulous. So what it was just kind of a legislative update. What happened in the state of Florida this past legislative session, but even kind of goes back even further than that. Because of course we're nerds on this podcast who know a lot about, we've talked to a lot of legislatures. We know mostly how the process works, though I still learn so much every time someone comes on. But anyway, to my point is that this was also just a basic 101 of how the legislature works, who represents us, how are bills getting passed, what the job of the legislature is, which is just to pass a budget, and everything else is a cherry on top, even though that feels like the wrong...
Inaccurate, but yes.
It's like if a cherry was pickled and then it was sitting out on the shelf for way too long. Okay, no, but back to the point. They did such an amazing job sort of walking through and really purposeful, but also from a perspective, which is, they're a voting rights organization. They are, their name, it's in their name, equal ground, equal representation. So I thought it was really powerful. But I actually had to leave a little bit early because I had a drum lesson, couldn't be moved, had to hit that snare drum. But you stayed a little bit longer and you told me something interesting. What happened after I left?
Well, so after you left, they continued with the update, and they actually, not only did they do a good job setting everything up at the beginning, but then they went through all of the different areas and the different laws that were passed, and ones that they were involved in, either supporting or opposing, what the ultimate result was, and then a couple of bullet points describing and highlighting important points from the laws and the bills. So it was extremely informative and very just complete. So it was great. So then after they finished that, they had an opportunity for people in the audience to ask some questions. And so I will say this was actually very telling. So they went through, really all of the different bills they were covering in many different areas. And I would say 85% of the questions from the audience were about schools and education.
People care. People are passionate and they have a lot of good questions. And again, like, we're on this podcast and you're a member of the board though here unofficially. So you live this stuff every day. But for a lot of folks, it's like, wait, what are these schools of hope, or what are charter schools? How does the taxpayer funded voucher system work? These are a lot of questions that people have. And you were there, fortunately, to field a lot of those questions.
Yeah, and Families for Strong Public Schools was also there. They had a representative there, and they are a partner of Equal Ground, so that was wonderful.
Yeah.
Abigail gave a great, synopsis of some of the work they're doing, an overview of some of the bills that passed, but really also didn't pass. So she did a great job. But I think it was, people really had specific questions about charter schools, about taxpayer-funded voucher schools. What's the difference? What's schools of hope? Like, what do you mean they're not fully paying for their use of our, of our schools? So it was, that truly just took up the bulk of the time for questioning. So I was glad to be there, glad to share information with the community, and also just glad to meet different people from different groups within the community who who had asked me to go out and speak to them on, many of these issues in the future, which of course I'm happy to do. So it is just a good reminder that when you want to help to educate the public and to answer their questions and to be there for them, you really have to go like where they are.
Yeah,
they're not going to necessarily come to you. You have to go where people are.
Though, having said that, did you tell all of them to subscribe to our podcast? Did you feel like that would have been appropriate?
I did not, though perhaps I should have. However, I did remind people that there is a school board meeting this Tuesday, public comment at 4:00 and business meeting at 5:00.
Oh, that is great. So you essentially took over the meeting.
No. They were great, but
they were fantastic.
They were fantastic, and the expertise they have in so many areas. I mean, it was so impressive. But I think it was. I hope it was helpful to have someone who really has a narrow focus on education, and was happy to just answer questions if I could.
Well, I'm glad we got there, and I'm glad you were able to be helpful to folks. I do want to bring up one other thing that passed this week that we would be remiss not to recognize, which is the 10th anniversary of the Pulse massacre, and you were able to attend the memorial. Do you want to just talk for a minute about that?
Yeah, so there are so many different remembrances and memorials going on this weekend. I was able to attend the one that was hosted or co-hosted by the City of Orlando at First United Methodist Church downtown, which, by the way, was completely packed. The entire church was packed, but it was very moving. The sister of one of the victims was there, and she gave a really, really powerful speech, and it was sad. It was just such a tragic, horrible, sad event, and it's just hard to believe that it's been 10 years. But I will say, it's also an important time to reflect on the importance of having safe, inclusive spaces for people, and sort of the resilience and strength of our community, and just how important it is to be welcoming and to show love and compassion and see the humanity in every person.
Beautifully put. Okay, on to something a little more bright. You took former guest of the podcast, Elizabeth Vanos, your eldest daughter, to visit UF, my alma mater. I have not been to Gainesville in over a decade. Maybe I might have driven through there, but I haven't really spent time on campus in a long time. How was that, taking your eldest daughter to the University of Florida? Go Gators.
Go Gators. No, it was great. They had a great program for students, and then some information for parents as well. But, I think I'm just going to shout out again to our public schools, just through the credits Elizabeth was able to get from her, public high school.
Mm-hmm.
She does not have to take any more science and math courses, which she was very, very excited about, I have to say. And she only had one more core credit to fill. So all of that, time and honestly money that, she's able to save, and we as a family are able to save because of the credit she was able to get at her public high school. Pretty amazing.
Do you need to borrow some cash? I can give. I have a 10.
That's not the point, Eddie. That's not the point. That's not the point. No, but so anyway, so she registered for her classes, and it was she's very excited.
That's really wonderful. When you were around the campus on UF, did anyone bring me up? Were they like, oh, do you remember Eddie Geller from Theater Strike Force? Amazing. Did that come up at all?
I mean, sometimes it does happen that people bring you up when I am out in places, but not that day. I was actually we were on a parent tour, and they had one of the guides, their students walking around with some music as we're walking from place to place, and I'm cracking up over the playlist, like thinking about just like what station did they choose for parents of incoming 18-year-olds, like what music will they like? It was just very funny.
I love that. I'm so excited for her. I'm so excited she's going to the University of Florida, and I'm excited to go visit at some point.
So, well, I have been busy in Gainesville, and I also had a conference for the job this week. Talk to me about a show that I hear you've been watching without me.
Okay, well, first of all, in my defense, again, you have been out of town, and I save the good shows for us, right? Like, we are still working through the first season of Andor, which I have seen before because I'm excited about watching the second season, even though you secretly hate Andor.
I was going to say, so Andor is one of the good shows, then.
Andor's one of the good shows, which I'm enjoying, and you are maybe a good actor, or maybe at moments you are actually enjoying. And I do want to talk more about Andor at some point.
I am enjoying it, for the record.
Okay, thank you. Officially. And okay, well, what I actually been rewatching just the last few days, X-Men 97. And now you're listening to this podcast and you're like, is he really talking about this comic book cartoon? Yes. So X-Men 97 is this kind of rebirth of this X-Men animated show. I'm pretty sure X-Men is in the culture. People know, there's been many movies, but the show that was on in the 90s and X-Men 97 is kind of a callback to that, was something I watched a lot and just was like, oh, cool. This guy shoots beams out of his eyes and this other person has claws come out of his hands. Again, I think people are pretty familiar with Wolverine, the character at this point. But so I've been rewatching X-Men 97, which came out 2 years ago, and they're about to release the second season. I'm going somewhere with this, by the way. So I'm rewatching X-Men 97, and the story of X-Men, which was originally created sort of during the Civil Rights era, and has a lot of those themes that are resonant. So rewatching it, there's this scene in which the X-Men are interrogating this militant human who essentially is saying, like, we're trying to get rid of you mutants. Because we cannot coexist. And that is like a running theme in the comic book. Yes, there's good mutants, there's bad mutants, but there's also plenty of militant humans who are trying to get rid of them. And it just like, it struck me, like a freight train, that these themes are still so resonant. Like, the characters in the militant humans in the show are saying, we cannot exist with you. The same way we are watching this last year plus of a supercharged version of Christian nationalists, of white Christian nationalists, who are like, we cannot live in this country with you. We cannot do multicultural democracy. We do not want wokeness. We do not want to be confronted with people of color or anything that acknowledges, their existence or that their struggle might have been different. And it is, I think a lot about watching fiction, and when sometimes fiction can enlighten you about reality. And it is X-Men 97. It's just a cartoon. I think a very good one. And they're based off comics that are, been around for decades. But anyway, I just thought a lot about it as like these characters that are like, no, your existence is a threat. And in the show and in the comic, it is couched as like you have superpowers. But in real life, it is just like the existence of the LGBTQ community, the existence of people of color or of women who assert their rights or their bodily autonomy. We cannot live with that. We can only live under the rule of the people who are the quote unquote dominant culture, force, whatever. I don't know. It got me thinking, and just was really poignant. And also the guy was still shooting lasers out of his eyes, so that part was cool too.
Well, first of all, that was beautiful and so thoughtful, and I can see why you are the good consumer of media. Because I sort
good.
of like just sit on the couch and like zone out a little bit. Can't say 100% what the storyline is in Andor, like with complete accuracy.
There's not a lot of people who really understand, but it's good.
But just your thoughtfulness is really impressive, and I mean, it kind of makes me want to watch it, to be honest. Although I will say, when you first said the guy had the beams coming out of his eyes, I actually thought. What I heard was beans, and I thought of like green beans, like string green beans shooting out of his eyes. And that distracted me for a little bit from your comments, but all in all, I just took that they were beautiful and thoughtful. So thank you for sharing that.
I would have imagined black beans if that came out of someone's eyes, but green beans work as well. But then of course these characters who want this absolutism are the like ultimate villains, right? And I think that should tell us something, you know? So anyway, X-Men 97 season 2 comes out July 1st. So it's on Disney Plus. If you have any interest, it's really good.
Thank you for sharing that.
That was a lot. Thank you if you're a listener, thank you for listening. Thank you, Steph, for listening through that. And I that was probably more than you had bargained for when you asked me.
Our content lovers appreciate it.
Our content lovers appreciate it. Well, I hope you all appreciate our interview. Here he is. It's a wonderful conversation.
Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Maestre. So happy to have you here.
I'm glad to be here.
Dr. Maestre is a principal, and he's here to give us some insight on what it's like to be a principal in a big school district. So thank you for taking the time after we start your summer break off by, having you talk more about school. So thank you for being here.
I love it.
We definitely appreciate it. And we should say, you have been mentioned on the podcast before. This is the principal that helped me procure a Switch 2, which you're forever a legend on this podcast and in our hearts. So thank you for all of that.
Of course. Actually, before I came here, I was playing Switch at home.
I love that.
I love it. Well, I also have to ask, Saturday morning, any long run happening today, or are we taking some time off?
Some time off.
I'm
probably going to get through the month of June and get summer school stuff done, and July kick it back into gear.
When it's about 100 degrees and 100% humidity in the morning.
Absolutely. Best time to run.
Exactly. I feel the same. Okay, well, let's start off can you just tell us a little bit about how you came to be a principal? What does that look like?
So it is actually a very long journey. And it really starts with just working in schools. I have known basically my whole life I wanted to be a teacher.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
I remember, growing up playing school at home, and I would be like, I'm going to be the teacher, and I'm going to grade the papers and do all of those things. And I actually remember being in 7th grade and taking one of those tests where you just do your interests, like what are you interested in, what do you like, and it told me that I would either be a teacher or a doctor. So in a way I did both, I guess. And it really was 8th grade when I took U.S. history, where I was like, I want to be a history teacher. Like, this is it. I'm so ready to go. This is what I want to do. And just being very, very lucky in the teachers I had, the schools that I went to. I'm actually in OCPS. I am a proud product of Orange County Public Schools. And I knew that once I graduated that I wanted to give back to the district that gave me so much. And I did the Valencia to UCF route, majored in social science education, and I graduated in December of 06 and was hired in January of 07, actually at my alma mater, to be able to teach history. And I loved every second of it. And while I was in the classroom and really working with kids and through curriculum, figuring out how to be a better teacher every year, I decided to go back to school, and I got my master's degree in ed leadership and had an amazing opportunity to transition to an assistant principal position, which I did for 3 years, and I absolutely loved it. I was an assistant principal of instruction, for anyone who knows kind of the lingo. Every secondary school in OCPS has an API, is what we call them. And that's the person who works a lot with master scheduling, working with all the different departments, ESC, ELLs, bringing everything together, making sure that all of the academic programs are together and aligned with the needs of the students in the building. And I did that for 3 years. And while I was doing that, I completed the Preparing Future Principal program in OCPS. And I was able to complete that program and transition into a principal position. When I think about the path that I was able to take and the different experiences I was able to have before I became a principal, I almost think that it probably shouldn't have happened because when you look at like my family background, my history, I'm a first-gen college student. Neither of my parents finished high school. They eventually got their GEDs after, but just life circumstances were different for them. And education was one of those things where it was important, but it wasn't pressed as hard as, maybe it could have been. But I saw it as an opportunity to advance myself and not only further my learning, but also my placement in life and really use my education to get to the next level, the next opportunity, and not so much make a difference just for me. At a certain point, it became, how can I make a difference for other people? When I was in the classroom working with kids, like how could I get kids excited about history? I'll always remember when I was teaching world history, I had a parent one time, maybe my second year teaching, we were doing the world religions unit. So, Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, all that. And the mom was like, my kid has never talked about what they're learning at the dinner table ever before. This is a 10th grader. And he's sitting at the dinner table and he's talking to us about all these different religions and all these facts about, their history. And she's like, I don't know what you're doing, but please keep doing it. Like that.
Oh, I love that.
That kind of thing like got me going, really excited about making that impact. And then, transitioning into an assistant principal role, working with teachers, helping them hone their craft, help them identify instructional strategies that could move kids and really make an impact on them. And then being the principal, of course, having such a huge impact and working at all levels with all of our stakeholders, and just really pulling everyone together to show and demonstrate like, this is what it's about. Like we can positively use education and what it is that we're learning in school and what we're doing at school to just be better people and make a huge impact on ourselves and each other.
Oh my gosh, I love that. What a great story.
I know, that is such a great story.
Is that, I guess I had never really thought about this before. Is that a common, because it seems like you phrased it maybe it's a little uncommon, but how common is your trajectory from teacher to administration, then becoming a principal? I guess in my mind, when I was young, I didn't really think about it. Like I just imagined like principals just being like birthed into the world as principals. Like, yeah, what are other ways people can become principals, if not the way you went through?
So I think my path is sort of the trajectory that most people take. I just was very lucky and was able to accelerate on that path. I was in a classroom for 5.5 years as a classroom teacher, an assistant principal for 3 years, and I just finished my 11th year as a principal.
Wow.
So most of my career has been in the principalship. Most people, I think, get a little bit more time at each level. But I was very lucky just in being able to make those transitions and really just have great experiences. Because every position that I've had, whether it be a classroom teacher, assistant principal, or principal, has been so fulfilling and so meaningful. And I've learned so much along the way.
Well, I'm sure you're being very modest about your luck. I'm sure much can be given to, I'm sure, you being great at the jobs that you've done before. Steph, did you look like you had something in it?
No, I was just going to say, one thing about your path I think is especially phenomenal is just like you were first gen college graduate from your family, which is amazing. And I think also speaks so much to why public education is important because, I think I just think that's it right there. So I'm so grateful that you saw that not just as an opportunity for yourself, but also as an opportunity to like build that for other people. So
Yeah, I mean, education is the pathway. It opens every door imaginable for our young people making their way across that stage and getting their high school diploma. And it really creates so many opportunities for whatever they're interested in. And that's what I tell people all the time, because we're not just pushing kids and saying, okay, you're going to go to college because that's what I did. Mm-hmm. It's what are you interested in? What do you want to do? And if you want it to be college, that's awesome. I love that for you as the path that you are choosing. But we have kids that want to go right into the workforce, and that's great for them too. Mm-hmm. Or kids that say, you know what, I'm going to enlist in the military and I'm going to take that path. Whatever the path is, that high school diploma just opens the doors for so many directions that they can go with it. And that's, for me, what it's all about.
You talking about that makes me think of, you just graduated another class. I was there, and I actually wanted to save to say this on mic, that you gave your speech. I was very moved by it. I thought it was so beautiful what you talked about. Maybe you can express a little bit of what you said, but part of your speech was talking about this being the first class you had gone through with when you became a principal. They were freshmen, correct?
Correct.
And now they're graduating. So how does that feel? And just tell me about, seeing those kids, this particular class graduating.
Yeah, so this was my 7th year as a high school principal. The first school that I was at, I was there 3 years, so I didn't get to see that class all the way through. But this class, I started when they started. Mm-hmm. And when I was writing my speech, I was going back and forth because something that you don't want to do when you're writing a graduation speech is kind of make it about you.
Interesting that you say that.
Because it's just kind of awkward, and it's you have 6,500 people there for their kid and their kids' friends. And you don't want to just go up there and say, well, this is about me. So I did struggle with that a little bit, but I thought it was appropriate just to say, guys, we started this journey together. I didn't know where anything was. You didn't know where anything was. I didn't know the teachers. You didn't know the teachers. And in 4 years, look what we did. We figured it out. We can map the school. We know everyone. We know the teachers. We know each other. And it was just such... I think, a fun way to kind of just show that connection that I have with this class, because I'll never have it again. Yeah. This is my first class. You only get one first. Yeah. Where I was able to see them all the way through, and as I was going into it and talking about where they're going and what they're doing next, and I mean the numbers of super scholars that we have coming out of the school, and the numbers of kids that are joining the military. It's so important that people just even know that. Mm-hmm. And when I pulled that stat of the number of kids that are first generation college net going into next year, like that hit me personally. It was an emotional part for me, because I know how proud those families are, because that was my family. Mm-hmm. Where they get to see their kid be the first one in their college or in their family to go to college and to start that path. That was huge, I thought. But I also make sure that I take time to do the recognition of families in the crowd, because that's important. And then I also like to point out the alumni that are in the audience, because when you're at a school that has people who generationally, this might be the 3rd or 4th generation of student walking across the stage, like that's powerful, that's important, just to see that community and that connectedness.
And that consistency, that they love their school and that they've stayed and they've maintained through all the years, all the changes, all the different leaders, that school has remained so strong that they want to continue to be a part of it and pour back, which is really, that's the goal, right? To have communities like that. I actually loved in that speech how you brought out all of those things, including the accomplishments that different students had made. I think there were something like 30 students who had their AA in the graduating class or something like that. And then what was the amount? I don't know I'm sorry to make you go back and try to remember this. Do you know the amount of scholarship money offhand that students had earned in the school?
It was over $13 million.
That is
That's crazy.
That's all of that we need to be sharing. We need to do a better job of sharing with people. $13 million that is going to help students pursue their next piece of their journey. So I think that's so important. I love that. So thank you for pointing that out in your speech.
Well, I love that, and I love how you touted that. And but this is also something Steph and I have talked about, and I'd love to get your take, is it is wonderful, and we should tout the super scholars and the amount of scholarship money and the highest achievers. But I also think about the great work when schools are able to help the kids who are having a tough time, who might not be passing, and we're able to, we meaning the community, the schools, the principal, are able to pull them up and help them get through that. And that is a tougher, and I want to say for folks who are listening, you acknowledge a large swath of students, not just, the highest scholars or whatever, and I don't have the exact nomenclature, but acknowledging it's harder to tout the bringing the kids who are struggling to a place where they're passing to their graduating. I'm curious how you think about that, about like how you feel about bringing those students from that place of struggle to that place of success, even though it's not necessarily something that you can is easily put on a banner.
Yeah, and I think the actual line in the speech, I said, for some of you, the journey went exactly as expected, and for others, it was a bumpy road.
Yeah.
And those are the kids that I have working in my office when they're, sophomores, juniors, seniors, trying to finish some credit recovery. Those are the kids that I'm calling their house to say, hey, they're not at school again today, and I need them to be at school because they're missing this, that, or the other. And we actually put in a lot of work behind the scenes to work to make sure every student gets through. Obviously, state of Florida has graduation requirements, and the requirements are what they are.
Yeah.
And sometimes kids get frustrated with them. And I say, listen, I can empathize with you when you talk about the struggle that you're having outside of school, because we have to face the reality that kids have things that are going on in their lives. It's not wake up, go to school, do your homework, and then go to bed and wake up the next day and do it again. Like, kids are dealing with real struggles in their family dynamics, and it's our job to help all of them to be able to meet those requirements. The one that is maybe the most frustrating, because we just do so much work and pour so much into it, is making sure that they all have that 2.0 minimum required unweighted GPA to graduate high school. And it's tough for some kids to really focus for those 4 years across the board, all the subject areas, and get those grades where they need to be. And then when they fall short, then we got to do some credit recovery, and we've got to get them to make those credits up and recover their GPA. Once again, every student at my school had at least at that minimum 2.0 GPA. We did not lose a single graduate to
That's amazing.
To grades, to GPA. So I'm very, very proud of that. But the other side is testing, and they have to be able to pass the reading test and the math test in order to earn their high school diploma. And this is the first class where the certificate of completion does not exist. It's not an option anymore. And that used to be the designation that for a student who got the credits, got the GPA, but missed one or both of the testing requirements, where they would get a certificate of completion. That's gone now. So we knew coming into this year that we really had to push on the testing side to get all of our students through either the standard state test that everyone's taking, or through a concordant score from another test. And we've got nearly everyone through on that pathway. We actually, in the 4 years I've been at my school, we came the closest to getting everyone through this year. But it was just a sincere push, and making sure that not just the students, but also their families understood if they didn't meet all of the requirements, they weren't going to be able to participate in graduation, and they wouldn't be getting a certificate of completion. Got nothing. On that side of it. So we just worked really hard with our kids, and I'm so lucky. I have such a phenomenal student services team, particularly my academic coach, who works with all of the seniors to make sure that they are meeting the things they need to do, getting registered for the test, because that's hard too. And you know, when you think of like a Saturday SAT, there's a financial barrier that exists there. So really working with the team to try to work with kids, overcome those challenges, get kids registered for tests, and then get them to show up, because that's a hard part, right? Like
It's early.
we can get them signed up, but if they don't show up, they lose that opportunity. And that's a lot of coordination with parents, making sure parents understand, listen, I know that you've got a family obligation on Saturday, but your kid, they have to be at the school. They signed up for this test.
Yeah.
They have to be at the school, because we want to make sure that they take advantage of every opportunity to take the test so that they can get the scores that they need.
When you're talking about this, one of the things that makes me think of was a conversation we had with another guest, Elizabeth, about the relationships being really important. The relationships, and she was talking about mostly relationships between students and teachers, but also really with students and admin, you know, as you're sort of like, and your support team, like sort of helping them make sure they get to graduation, and how building that relationship is a really important piece for things like getting a kid to show up, or motivating them to kind of take those final steps, or, you know, just helping to push them across the line. So, and I think that's something that you do a really, really good job on. So how do you do that? How do you feel like you build good relationships with students? Because I feel like you have that. So how do you do that as a principal?
It's just talking to them. It's really, you know, just talking with students, checking in with them. How are things going? You know, there's so much pressure, there's so much stress in our lives, and that's the same is true for the kids. So when we're stressed and we've got a million things going on at school, and a kid comes up to me and they're having a crisis, I can't disregard them because I'm busy, or I've got something else to do, or I'm going somewhere else. I have to fully stop and look at them, acknowledge them, hear them. What's the concern? How can I help? And maybe it's not even something that I have to do, but I need to be able to get the right person to work with them. And when you do that kind of thing, they're like, oh, okay, this is someone who I can go to when I'm in crisis. This is someone that I can talk to when I need help. And while that's happening, I've been at the play, and I saw you at the play too, by the way. I know you're in crisis right now, but you did a great job at the play. Or, you know, I went to your softball game or your swim meet or whatever it was. And that's where they really get that understanding of, I care about you. You are not just a number in the school. You are not just, you know, someone that we're tracking to get through. We actually do care about you, and we care about your family. We care about how you feel. And if something's not going well, please let us know, because when kids feel like they can just talk freely and openly, it's interesting just how the dynamic shifts a little bit, and it makes it less about I'm the principal and you're the student, and more about we both exist on this campus together, and we need to make it work for everyone. It's not just about one person, you know, or one group of kids. It's about everyone, and we need to be able to help everyone be successful.
Oh, that's just so important and so good to hear, and just really appreciate that. And I know I've been at just different events for schools, out at, you know, cross country meets super early in the morning, and I've seen you out there, so I know you're taking the time. It's a lot. What principals, and I don't know if every principal does this, but what I guess we expect principals to do is it takes a lot of time. I mean, it's early morning, it's after school, it's weekends, it's a lot.
It's 24/7.
Truly, yes.
Well, can you actually, because this is one of the questions we have is what does a principal do? But maybe a more pointed way of asking this question is, can you take us through a typical day? And I'm sure there's many different things that happen on many different days, but yeah, go for it. Like, I'd love to know more.
Well, I mean, there's not a typical day.
Yeah, I knew that was coming.
It's 180 days of school, 180 very different days. But they all start generally the same.
Yeah.
Obviously, students start getting dropped off at 6:30 in the morning. And we've got to get them in, keep them safe, of course. And that my team is there before 6:30. They're there before me. Yeah. And just, you know, we're getting the kids in, and usually about 6 o'clock, text messages start flying from our leadership chat of, different things that are happening. This person might not be coming in because they're sick or their kid is sick or whatever. And we've got to make this shift or that shift. And it's wild and crazy sometimes in the morning, just getting the day started. And that's before the first bell. And then it turns into kids slowly trickling in. 6:50 is about when we open all the gates, cafeterias open for breakfast, and kids are coming in. And it's 30 minutes of very unstructured time in the morning where, kids are coming in, and then we've got to get everyone into their classes and move them. And then it really depends on what time of year we're in, what's going on. Do we have testing happening, which is most of the year? Are we meeting with teacher teams? Do I have to work on different projects for different areas? Am I analyzing data? But it is all very fluid. And sometimes I'm in my meeting and things are moving in the right direction. We're trying to figure something out and we're almost there, and then there's a situation in the front office where they need an administrator, or there's someone on the phone who's upset. And, we want to be able to take the time to help everyone that calls or has a concern. So just kind of hit the pause button sometimes and go deal with whatever the situation is, and then kind of go back into it. And there's bells ringing all day long.
Mario music.
There's Mario music. Every 50 minutes we have to stop for 6 minutes for transition.
Yeah.
But I tell my team, it's important. We have to be out. Number one, we're supervising. But number two, if something were to happen, it's going to take more time to fix it on the back end if we're not out and supervising and keeping things moving than if we are. So you go 50 minutes, take a 6-minute break, get kids in classes, and then kind of go back to what you're doing. And then lunchtime. Where it's supervision, but when we hit those transition period times and we have lunch, those are those opportunities to talk with kids.
Yeah.
And I love just kind of walking around and listening to, not eavesdropping, but kind of listen to the conversations that are happening and kind of inject myself if it's appropriate. But just talking with kids and even checking in with them. And they know where we are. They've never seen our supervision map, but every kid knows exactly where every dean, administrator on the campus is during lunchtime, because they'll come to us and they'll say, hey, this is a situation I'm working on. This is what I need help with. And that's the authentic, uninterrupted, let's talk time, because we have time.
Yeah.
And just try to work with them with whatever they need, and after lunch it's kind of a whirlwind, and sometimes I'll hit the end of the day and say, I don't think I ate lunch today, but because the day goes so fast, but no 2 days are ever the same.
And then after the last bell rings, then starts your extracurricular athletics rounds of events.
That's when the second shift starts.
Yes.
And it's try to get some things done for maybe an hour, but by then that's when games are starting, or maybe there's a meeting or something going on in the auditorium, and then it's the second shift, which I love because that is outside of the academic day, so I can have real authentic conversations with kids about what they are interested in, and see them in action, watch them playing in the sport or acting on the stage or singing in the concert or whatever it is, and then get to talk to them about the thing that means the most to them. And it's just so powerful on the relationship side, where they actually know that I care about them. We care about them as people, not just a student that happens to go to the school where I work.
Oh, and then it's not necessarily a transactional conversation where they want something and they're asking you to fix something or do something. They're just, just building trust and just talking about their game or their show or their performance or whatever.
Do you think our conversations are transactional for the most part?
I mean, it depends.
Are there any common misconceptions about what people think a principal does versus what you actually do? Or do you think people kind of get it?
I think people probably get most of it. But I'm not the kind of principal that will pass a spill on the floor and then call a custodian to come get it. Like, I know where the mop is. It's in the custodial closet. It's right down the hall. I have a key. Let me go grab the mop and let me just take care of it in the moment. There are some times where I will cover the front desk, and people don't necessarily know that it's me. You know, and I'll answer the phone and just be able to take care of them right there on the spot. But, you know, being the principal isn't just being the person who's in charge and, you know, telling other people what to do. And it is being fully invested in every aspect of the entirety of the school logistical operations, everything going on inside of a classroom. And I'll be honest, I've walked into some classes before, and kids will ask for help, and I am not a science person. I am not a math person. I can probably get through Algebra 2, no problem. Bio, I'm mostly okay. But I hit a point where I'm like, I don't know that I can help, but let's maybe get a friend and let me call the teacher over and see what we can do. Because kids look at us as administrators as they must know everything. They, you know, they work in the school. Who doesn't know calculus? So let me call them over. And I'll just kind of sit in the room sometimes like, wow, these kids are brilliant. They're so smart. They're so inquisitive. They think so critically. And just to be able to get to see that it is impressive. I just can't always help because I don't know the answers in every single class. I was a history teacher, so that's my domain, and I'm great in English. But outside of that, I struggle.
How often are you in classrooms? Because I would just imagine there's so much administrative work to do during the day that, you know, it would be hard to spend a lot of time in classrooms. But how much of your time, just generally, would you say you spend in classrooms observing teachers or observing students or just kind of looking at how the class goes?
I try to spend as much time as I can in classrooms, and at different points of the year, you know, depending on what's going on, it's going to look different. But it's just so important just to be in there. And it's funny because sometimes I'll walk in rooms and I see kids change, like physically you know, they sit up a little bit straighter, you know, they quickly put their cell phone away or, you know, whatever it is, where they're like, oh, the principal's in the room. Okay. And sometimes it's just walking through to say hi. You know, I'll try to, if I'm walking through a hallway from point A to point B, like just along the way, let me pop in a couple classrooms, just very informally go in the room, see what's going on, say hi to the kids, make sure the teacher's okay, and then jump out. It's not evaluative. There's no observation happening, but it's just checking in. And those things are important too, because it lets the kids know, okay, principal is walking through. He might walk in the door and, you know, they pay a little bit more attention. And sometimes I'll, you know, just even look through the windows when I'm in the hallway and the kid will like make eye contact with me and they'll be like, oh, and then they'll motion to their friend like, he's outside.
How does that make you feel?
I mean, really, it is funny. Because I think that it does show that there is a level of respect that exists. And they're acknowledging me. And maybe if they were doing something they shouldn't have been doing, they're going to correct that behavior. But also, like, they'll just wave sometimes and be like, oh, hi. How are you? And they're not afraid to say hi. They're not afraid to come up to me. And even when I'm in the classrooms, like they'll want to like give me a fist bump or something. And I'm like, you're supposed to be working right now. But okay, let's fist bump. And then I'll ask them like, what are we working on? What are we doing? And it's very low anxiety. Like I'm not doing anything like there's no gotcha. I'm just checking in, because what I always try to remember about the work that I do and the role that I have, if the kids aren't at school, I don't have a job. If they're not there, if they're not in the building, none of us do. None of the adults in the building. There's no purpose for us because the kids aren't there. So just creating that environment where kids want to be in school, where they feel comfortable in school, you know, when they see us, they're not afraid of us, because they shouldn't be. But there is a level of mutual respect that does exist between the students and the adults, and it's such an important thing, because that is the basis for all of our relationships. And every interview I've ever been on, any interview I've ever conducted, it always goes back to relationships in schools. And when kids feel comfortable at schools, that's what they talk about with their parents. And sometimes they don't even say it directly. Like maybe they're just sitting at the dinner table and they're talking about something that happened at school, and maybe the kid thought it was funny, but the parent's like, wait, what happened? And and then I'll get an email like, this happened at school today, where it whatever the situation was doesn't necessarily lend itself to being a positive relationship, and that's where things can sometimes fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
I have one question about that, because I do have a larger question, but I want to home in on you dropping in, which I love. How do you make sure that the teachers don't feel on guard? Like my boss is, I'm putting in air quotes, my boss is popping in.
I mean, you are the boss.
You are the boss. Well, I because I'm sure that's not how you want to see yourself necessarily. But yeah, just like, how do you make sure teachers feel respected and not like, oh, he's checking in, or he's just, looking over my shoulder? I don't know. Do you think about that?
Yeah, and a lot of times, I'll make eye contact with them, and I'll just kind of say, I'm just walking through. Because it can be scary.
Yeah.
And with so much tied to evaluations and so much pressure that teachers feel, sometimes it's the principal, it's an assistant principal walking in the room, like it can be scary, but I will legit just tell them, like, I'm just walking through. It's okay. And I'll sit in the back of the room, or, just kind of walk around and see what the kids are working on, and not be there too incredibly long. But to your point, I do understand it. I mean, it can be scary, just with the principal walking in the room, where they think like I'm there for some reason, but sometimes, like I said, I'm just walking through the hallway.
Yeah. Well, my larger question, which I had, is we've had a lot of great legislators, and we've had students on here and other sorts of folks. You're actually one of I think the first guests we've had who's kind of the executive of something, the chief of something. And so what I want to think about, which is related to the last question, I think you have like in some ways kind of answered this, but how do you think about having power over a whole school? And I know that's maybe a funky way of putting it, but this school you're kind of, the buck stops with you, and all these teachers, administrators, students, they're under your supervision, under your purview. So how do you think about that? How do you make sure that doesn't go to your head? I'm curious.
Being the principal has such tremendous weight, and it is not anything that I or any of my colleagues take lightly. Like, we all understand how important our role is. It's kind of like being the mayor of a small city, because for everything. I mean, there's nearly 3,000 people that are existing on that campus at any given time. And we're not just responsible for educating them, but there's the social aspect that we need to instill in them and work with them on. Discipline, we have to work through that. And then, of course, safety. Like when safety things happen, like it can be scary. And the weight of the role, it's immeasurable. Because everything, the buck does stop with me, and everything comes to me, and it can be scary sometimes. And one of my principals, when I was kind of coming through, my mentor actually, she told me before I got my first principalship, she said that the principal seat is a lonely seat. And I didn't really understand it until I sat in it, because there's no one necessarily that I can say, well, maybe it was something they did, like it does ultimately end with me, and I'm responsible for everything that happens on the campus, good or bad, because it's really easy to celebrate the positive things, the great things that are happening on the campus. But I think the real test of leadership is when things aren't so great, when things maybe go a little bit sideways. And it's not that it goes sideways, but how are we going to navigate through the crisis that's right in front of us? And how are we going to work through this situation to help this kid, because it could be just a one kid crisis, this group of kids, this classroom, something maybe happened in the community. How do we navigate that kind of thing? You know, how do we navigate the loss of a student? How do we navigate the loss of a staff member? How do we, work through a major discipline situation that happened on campus, or maybe even something that happened in the community over the weekend or on social media that finds its way onto the campus? And being able to not just be the principal who is going to manage 100% of everything, but to be able to trust my team, trust my assistant principals, trust my deans, trust my teachers to work through a crisis, to work through a situation, so that we're all in it together. We're all working through it together and not just living in one place with one person.
And I think that's something you're so very good at. Wanted to ask as kind of, I guess, somewhat related question. There's a lot out there right now, just sort of the climate we're in, where people have maybe some negative perceptions about public education or public schools generally. And when you hear that sort of negativity, what is your response to that?
So school choice exists. Like that's just a fact. And it can be frustrating being in the public school system and hearing a lot of negativity about it, because like I started here just talking about my story, and I owe everything to my public education that I have. And even when I went to college, I went to public colleges, and I just owe so much to it. And I took advantage of every opportunity that I could within it. So just hearing some of the things that might be happening outside of our organization can be frustrating, but that's not to put down a parent who makes a choice for their child that's not the public education system, because their dynamics might be different, and I don't always know what those things are. If a family chooses to go the charter route or go private, do homeschool, whatever option that they think is the best option for their kid, I support them in their ability to choose that. I will say, though, we have a pretty fantastic product, and we have so many things that we can offer. We can help and support the kid who's on a trajectory to go to an Ivy League school. We can work and support with the kid that maybe has some learning gaps from earlier on that we need to close those gaps so they can get their high school diploma. We work with students who language is a barrier. We work with students who may have an IEP to close the gaps of some things that they need, or a 504 plan, or whatever it is. And we have a team member on the campus, at least one, that is specifically there to support every different kind of student. We have classroom teachers who care so much about kids, and not just moving them through curriculum, but teachers love their kids. And they want them to be successful. One of the things I do for the end of the year, and I've done it every year I've been a principal, during Teacher Appreciation Week, we have kids write letters to the teacher who made the biggest impact on them. And at the end of the year, we read some of them, the funnier ones or maybe the more heartfelt ones. But every single teacher gets an envelope filled with letters, and we frame one, whichever one we think is the best from their packet. And just to hear how much in the letters, and it's mostly unprompted, because sometimes they'll be like, my teacher said that I had to write a letter. Okay, we're prompting that piece. But they'll just talk about how the teacher supported them. I read one this year from a teacher who, it's him and his mom living at home, and in the letter he's like, to this male teacher, he said, I never had a father, I never knew a father, but you're kind of it. Like you're my person. You're the one who I feel like I want to be like when I grow up, just as an example. And that's his teacher. Our teachers pour everything into the students that they serve. And yes, you can get that other places. I understand that. But there's just something powerful, something magical about the public education system, where these kids just get such a great product, such a great opportunity being part of this large, huge system, where they're not just numbers. And maybe at a time it could have been perceived that way, but we do so much for kids beyond just what the standard curriculum is, by way of mental health supports, guidance supports, and just making those genuine connections that I don't know that you can get the same level anywhere else.
Right. And just the student body itself just being so diverse and such a wide range of students looking for different things, coming from different backgrounds. Like, there's something valuable there that I feel like public school is able to offer that it just doesn't exist everywhere.
Yeah. And, that diversity, it's such an important piece of it all, because I think that, again, speaks to, we're preparing kids for life after high school, and being able to be around other people. Sometimes I'll have a kid that's frustrated with their teacher. They'll be like, I can't believe that, they did this, that, or the other. And I'm like, okay, well, what happened? Let's talk about it. And then I redirect the conversation to, listen, I understand that you're frustrated with the teacher today, but we got to think long term. Maybe you're in 10th grade, so you've got 2 years left, that you have at least 14 more teachers that you're going to interact with. You're going to go to college. You're going to have, a whole bunch of professors. You're probably not going to like every single one of them. And that's okay, because you don't need to like them, but you need to be able to learn from them. They'll respect you. You'll respect them. I need you in that classroom, and I need you learning. And usually they'll kind of come around and be like, well, yeah, I guess.
That's great for a teenager, by the way, to reach that conclusion.
But and I even tell them too, like, when you become an adult, you're not always going to like your boss. You're not always going to like your colleagues. The way that you might be closest with your network of friends, your inner circle. But that's okay, because part of what we're teaching kids too is just getting along with each other, and that mutual respect. And once we get them to understand there, it usually takes till the time we're juniors or seniors to fully get it. But they understand, this is a diverse world, and the public education setting is the place to have the most diversity, and just get to even hear different opinions and different viewpoints from everyone.
Yeah. I love hearing that. One of the things I think about is hearing folks, I think, articulate a vision of public education, or education in general, that is just preparing kids for the workforce. And that is obviously part of it. We want kids to know how to do things, and they can go out in the workforce. But what I love, and you can tell me if you see it differently, is you're articulating an education system that teaches kids how to be adults in the world, and how to get along with folks. And yes, there is a part of it that is like, this is going to be prepare you to be a worker, but I'm curious your reaction to this idea that schools are just there to kind of prepare workers.
Yeah, no, that is not.
Thumbs down. Yeah.
We're working with just such a large group of young people. Yes, we want them to be educated. That's the goal, obviously, and we need to keep them safe while we're doing it. But it's being a good person, right? Being a good human, and making sure they're understanding their civic responsibility to the greater scheme of what education is, leading into the real world. I tell kids all the time, like, this is practice. Like, when they mess up at school, I'm like, it's okay. You made a bad choice. And sometimes it's a really bad choice, but we're going to learn from it, and we're going to be better because of the growth that we're going to have from this experience. And it's getting them to really mature in a way to be the best version of themselves, and get ready for the next steps ahead. And we have a very important part in that process, and it's making them feel like they matter, making them feel included, making them feel like whatever it is that they're feeling is valid. And they're so, I mean, when I talk about like the immense pressure and weight of the role, like that's it. And working with all kids who sometimes may have even opinions that are different than mine. Like that's okay too. They don't have to agree with me. I'm not going to tell them what I, personally believe. But whatever it is that they want to do, like that's okay. Like how can I help you get there? Because that's the goal. Because I don't look at it and, what my success is. I don't look at it from the top down, because it really is bottom up. If the kids are not successful, the teachers are not successful. If the teachers are not successful, I'm not successful. Like we all have to be able to focus all of our energies on the kids and what it is that they need, so that they can be well-rounded people, good people, and make an impact in the world. Because, and I hear, and I'm a millennial, so, I hear, other millennials and, people who are older than me, sometimes they're like, oh gosh, we're in trouble. Look at these kids. Oh my gosh, all they care about is TikTok and, other social media things. But I'm like, no, you have no idea what's coming. Like these kids are absolutely incredible. Every single one of them. And they're going to be a force to be reckoned with, like as they continue to mature and, get more education outside of high school, whatever path that is. They're just such incredible humans. I can't wait to see the impact that these kids are going to make in not just our community, but our country and our world, because they're phenomenal.
That's so beautiful.
It's nice to have some hope.
I know. I love it. It feels good. Maybe I can close this out by just asking, how can let's just say a school district or a school board, how can sort of the bigger entity do a better job of supporting principals in schools?
I mean, really, and I'm very lucky. We are very much supported. We have the ability to communicate needs that exist at our level, ask questions of other people who, colleagues or even some of our bosses. But really, it's just keep listening. Mm-hmm. Keep listening to us, the principals, the administrators, the boots on the ground, mm-hmm. Of what's going on, because the principal has a unique ability to really have a sense of a pulse of what's going on in the building. Because people tell me stuff all the time. Kids, teachers, parents, community members. And sometimes it is intentional, but sometimes it's just a conversation where they don't even realize that they've given me a nugget of information. I'm like, oh, okay. I maybe I didn't hear it, I didn't see it that way, and they're just talking and venting. They didn't necessarily come to complain or anything. They're just talking. And that's then something that I can take into action. And we just need for our leadership to continue listening and, trust us, because we know what we're doing. And I know that they know that we know what we're doing, because they selected us. They put us in positions of leadership. They put us in places where we can be successful, and where we can work with our community for our community to be successful. And that's just it, keeping those lines of communication open, keeping ears open, to listen to us when things go sideways, because we have a very good indication of how things are going at the ground level.
Absolutely. I mean, no one really better than you. You're getting input from so many people. And it's just been very evident in this conversation that you really understand what's happening and really have just a heart of gold and, putting students first and making sure they're successful, whatever their path is. So thank you for that.
Okay. I do have one more spicy-ish question, because we do have a parent of an OCPS student with us on the podcast. I'm looking at her. Multiple. How do you deal with it when parents are frustrated and upset? Because I feel like that has to be one of the toughest parts of being in your role, and any, administrators, teachers, etc. I feel like that's got to be one of the thorniest things. Like, how do you navigate that?
So the most important thing with that really is just listening, because there's a concern. Something happened, and it might be something in a classroom. It might be something with another student. I mean, it could be any number of things. But every time that those concerns come in, whether it's they call the school and they get me on the phone, they email me, or they just show up, because that happens sometimes too, where they're in the front office and then they call and they're like, so-and-so's in the front office and they want to talk with you right now. I just always remember that it's a parent advocating for their kid. Like, it's not a personal thing. They're not attacking me. They're not angry necessarily at me. Something happened to the most precious thing on the planet for this person, and they're just advocating for their kid. And you know, sometimes they don't have all of the information. You know, sometimes kids leave stuff out that they tell their parents, and then their parents react a certain way. But it's really just getting them in and talking with them. Like, when they call and they're upset, it's really easy to say, I'm in a meeting, I'm busy, tell them I'll call them back later. They're angry right now. They're frustrated right now. Something is happening right now in this moment. And if I can't, I'll grab an assistant principal who can. But someone needs to talk to them in this moment, and just get the information. Like, what is happening? Like, let me listen. And it's not a situation where you're going to talk and I'm going to kind of cut you off and say, that's not what's happening. That's like, no, just genuinely tell me what's wrong. And now I'm going to look into it. I have a team of people. We're all going to look into it and address it, because I know that it's not a personal thing, because they just care about their kid. And whatever the situation is, it's the most important thing to them in that moment. And I've got important things for me that's happening simultaneously in my moment, but I have to be able to work with them and help get them through, so that they understand we're here and we're going to help whatever situation might come up, because that, again, goes back to the relationship piece. Like, they need to know that if something's wrong, just call me. And I tell that to parents all the time. If something's wrong, just shoot me an email or give me a call, and I will do what I can to help.
You must have so many tabs open in your brain at any given time that you're trying to circle back to and remember what's there.
So many times.
So I like to ask people this question, given that, and given I know, and you've been very positive, and you're a positive person, and you're a positive, energetic person, and I can tell you love your job, but I also know that it is very stressful. So what do you do to recharge yourself?
That is where running comes in. Running and video games. Just time to unwind and kind of not have to think. Like, it's really great when I go home and I don't have to make a decision.
I bet, yeah.
Because like all day it's like, this or that, should we move this direction or that direction? Now we got to look at this. What is this telling us? And, sometimes at the end of the day, it's fatigue. Like, it's the end of the day, it's just exhaustion. And it's like, okay, I just need to recharge and relax. And even if it's playing, a video game for 30 minutes, or, going out to a movie or something like that, just time away. Not permanently.
No, everybody needs it. Yeah.
Just some time. And, every summer I always try to make sure that, there's some kind of travel. So like in a month, actually, from today, I'll be getting on a cruise. I'm doing an Alaska cruise. So
well, it's fun. Can we come?
It's like, no, I've got to be away from everyone in Orlando. Yeah.
But, just something like that, where it's like, let me just be a human and go off into the world and, do whatever fun thing is in front of me in the moment, and then get back to work, because the work is nonstop.
Mm-hmm. I actually Steph sent you a TikTok maybe yesterday about how going on vacation is such a restorative thing, because we're able to sort of shed our daily identities. And we get to be this other person that is in some way, not that being a principal or school board member or whatever is not your full self, but there's a way in which you can be yourself on vacation that is part of the restorative element. And I'd have to imagine, like, yes, you are free for a time being of being that person in charge and making all these decisions. So anyway, we'll watch that TikTok at some point.
Sounds good. I love the idea I love how you articulated just being able to be a human. And we should all remember that we are all human, and we all need a lot of the same things. And so Thank you for being here today. Thank you for everything you do. I appreciate, admire, and respect you so much.
Thank you so much for being here. This was wonderful. I'm so glad we got you on the pod.
Thank you.
Thank you.